There comes a moment in life when we must pause and ask ourselves a simple yet profound question. When was the last time you did something purely for yourself? Not for social media likes, not for the approval of others, not to fit into society's narrow definition of success, but simply because it resonated with your soul? In today's hyperconnected world, where every action can be scrutinized and every achievement measured by external validation, we've forgotten what it means to live authentically. We've been conditioned to perform, to curate our lives for public consumption, to seek applause rather than inner peace. But what happens when the applause fades? What remains when the crowd disperses? The answer lies not in the approval of others, but in the quiet, unwavering respect we hold for ourselves. Social media has transformed our existence into a never-ending performance. We post the polished versions of our lives, the celebrations, the successes, the picture-perfect moments, while carefully editing out the struggles, the doubts, and the raw, unfiltered reality. Over time, this constant performance rewires our sense of self-worth. We begin to measure our value by the number of likes, comments, and shares we receive, mistaking external validation for genuine fulfillment. But the truth is, no amount of applause can fill the void left by self-abandonment. The moments that truly matter, the ones that shape our character and define our journey, often go unnoticed by the world. And yet, these are the moments that build the foundation of a life well lived. Consider this. How many times have you accomplished something remarkable, something that requires courage, resilience, or sheer determination, only to feel a strange emptiness because it didn't receive the recognition you expected? That emptiness isn't a reflection of your achievement. It's a symptom of a deeper issue. Society has taught us to seek validation before honoring our own truth. We've been trained to believe that unless others acknowledge our efforts, they don't truly count. But this is a dangerous illusion. Applause is fleeting. Trends change. People move on to the next spectacle. What endures is a relationship we have with ourselves, the quiet pride that comes from knowing we stayed true to our values, even when no one was watching. Real fulfillment doesn't come from standing ovations or viral moments. It comes from alignment, when our actions reflect our deepest beliefs, when we pursue goals out of passion rather than pressure, when we choose self-respect over social approval. It's the difference between climbing a mountain because you are told to and climbing it because it calls to your spirit. The former leaves you exhausted and empty. The latter fills you with purpose, regardless of who cheers you on. This is the essence of authentic living. Recognizing that your worth isn't determined by the crowd, but by the integrity with which you live your life. Breaking free from the need for external validation isn't easy. We live in a world that rewards visibility, that equates popularity with success. It takes courage to step off the stage, to silence the noise of comparison, and to listen to the quiet voice within. But the moment you stop performing for others and start living for yourself, something extraordinary happens. You discover a newfound freedom, a sense of peace that isn't contingent on the opinions of others. You realize that the most meaningful achievements are often the ones that go uncelebrated by the world, but leave an indelible mark on your soul. So begin where it matters most, with yourself. Look in the mirror and ask not whether the world is applauding you, but whether you are proud of the person staring back. Can you say with honesty that you're living in alignment with your truth? That your choices reflect who you are, not who others want you to be? This is where true confidence is born, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments of self-honesty. The most powerful life you can live is one that's true to you, unfiltered, unapologetic, and free from a need for applause. Because in the end, the only validation that truly matters is your own. Let this be your awakening. Not to another performance, not to another curated version of yourself, but to the real, imperfect, and extraordinary person you already are. Live boldly, live authentically, and most importantly, live for yourself. The real competition becoming better than yesterday. We live in a world obsessed with comparison. Every time you scroll, you're reminded of someone else's achievements, someone else's milestones, someone else's curated highlight reel. It can feel like you're falling behind, like you're not doing enough, like everyone else is ahead of you. But here's what no one tells you: that is not your race. Your only real competition is the person you were yesterday. Let that sink in, because once you understand it, life stops being a contest and starts being a journey, a personal one. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's timeline. You stop feeling small in the face of someone else's success. You begin to see progress for what it truly is: growth in the right direction, no matter how slow. Think about this. Have you taken even one step forward this week? Have you learned something new? Pushed through a hard moment? Chosen discipline over comfort? Even just once? If yes, you're growing. You're winning. You're evolving. And that matters so much more than whether you've caught up to someone else's pace. Too often, we think growth has to be loud, impressive, or visible to others. But the truth? Some of the most powerful growth is quiet, invisible. It happens in the small decisions you make when no one's watching. Like choosing not to hit snooze and getting up anyway. Like deciding to speak up for yourself, even if your voice shakes. Like saying no to things that drain you and yes to things that nourish your soul. That's the kind of progress that can't be posted, but it builds something stronger than attention. It builds self-trust. We all know what it feels like to break promises to ourselves. We say, tomorrow I'll start, or next time I'll do better, and then we don't follow through. And every time that happens, we don't just feel disappointed. We start doubting ourselves. We stop believing in our own potential. That doubt grows loud. But you know what quiets it? Action. Any action, even a small one. You don't need to be perfect today. You just need to be a little better than you were yesterday. That's it. And if you keep doing that, stacking those wins, however small they add up, you start building momentum. You start seeing yourself differently, not as someone who might get there someday, but as someone who's already becoming. And here's the thing about momentum. It doesn't come from motivation. It comes from movement. From choosing to keep going when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's not exciting. That's what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. So ask yourself, did I grow today? Did I choose something that stretched me? Did I make even a tiny decision that future me will thank me for? And if you didn't, that's okay. Grace is part of the journey. 2. But make tomorrow count. Don't let comparison rob you of your joy. Don't let someone else's story make you question your path. Your timeline is sacred. Your growth is personal. Your journey is yours alone. Remember, success isn't always about speed. It's about direction. Are you moving forward? Even if it's slow? Then keep going. Let yesterday's version of you be your only rival. Let today's effort be your only goal. And let tomorrow's reflection be your greatest reward. There's a voice inside all of us that whispers fear, hesitation, and uncertainty. It's that voice that questions if you're good enough, ready enough, smart enough. Sometimes it gets so loud that it feels impossible to move forward. Doubt, left unchecked, becomes a wall between where you are and where you're meant to be. But here's the truth you need to hear. You don't silence doubt with more thinking. You silence it with action. Action is louder than fear, louder than insecurity, louder than every what if that plays in your head at 2 a.m. The mind loves to loop through questions. What if I fail? What if I'm judged? What if I'm not enough? And it will keep spinning that loop forever unless you break the cycle by doing something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be real. Because every time you take a step, even a small one, you send a signal to yourself. I'm not here to stay stuck. I'm here to grow. That's how belief is built, not by waiting for confidence, but by proving to yourself over and over that you can keep going, even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when you don't feel ready. The biggest lie we're told is that we need to feel confident before we take action, but that's backwards. Confidence doesn't come first. It comes after you show up, after you try, after you face the fear and do it anyway. Think about the times you've done something scary. Maybe it was starting a new job, speaking in public, standing up for yourself, or chasing a goal that felt too big. At first, you probably felt unsure, nervous, even terrified. But once you stepped in, once you started, something shifted. Not because the fear vanished, but because you moved anyway. That's the power of action. It rewires your brain. It turns fear into fuel. It turns doubt into data. Every time you act, you gather evidence that you're more capable than you think. You stop waiting for someone to give you permission and start realizing you are the permission. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be brave enough to take the next step. Let's be real, overthinking can be a form of self-sabotage. It feels like preparation, like being responsible, like you're waiting for the right moment. But more often than not, it's fear in disguise. And the longer you wait, the more power that fear gains. But once you act, even imperfectly, fear loses its grip. It shrinks in the presence of progress. The best part? You don't need giant leaps. Tiny steps count. Saying yes when your instinct is to hide. Choosing to speak when you'd normally stay silent. Taking 5 minutes to start something instead of waiting for a full plan. That's how courage is cultivated. That's how doubt is dissolved. And the beautiful thing is, action creates momentum. One small step leads to another. And suddenly, you're not the same person who started. You're growing. You're changing. You're becoming a version of yourself that no longer lets fear make the rules. So today, don't wait for clarity. Let your movement create clarity. Don't wait for motivation. Let your decision to act create motivation. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Start with what you have. Wherever you are, however uncertain it feels, take one step forward. Not because you're ready, but because you're done being stuck. And with every step, remind yourself of this truth. You don't need to silence every doubt in your head. You just need to make one decision that doubt doesn't get to win today. That's how belief is built. That's how transformation begins. That's how you rise. Let failure build you, not break you. Failure is one of the most misunderstood parts of life. We've been taught to see it as something to avoid, something shameful, a sign that we're not enough. But the truth is, failure is not the end of the story. It's often the beginning of something far more powerful. Failure doesn't mean you're broken. It means you were brave enough to try. And that alone already separates you from the people still sitting on the sidelines, too scared to even take a swing. Think about it, every person you admire, every leader, innovator, or dreamer who's made an impact in this world has failed. Not once, but repeatedly. And they didn't succeed in spite of those failures. They succeeded because of them. Each stumble taught them something they couldn't have learned by staying safe. Each mistake sharpened their vision, deepened their humility, and built their resilience. That's what smart people understand. Failure is not a verdict. I'm a teacher, but most of us were never taught how to fail well. We were taught to avoid failure at all costs, to cover up, to run from it, to bury it deep and pretend like it didn't happen. And in doing that, we miss the gold. We miss the lessons, the wisdom, the strength that only comes from falling and finding a way to rise again. The truth is, you don't grow the most when things are easy. You grow when things fall apart and you choose to rebuild. You grow when your plan fails and you find another way. You grow when life knocks you down and you refuse to stay there. When failure comes, and it will, you have a choice. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can let it convince you to stop, or you can let it show you where to start again, this time wiser, stronger, more aware. It's not about pretending the pain isn't real. It's about learning how to hold that pain, examine it, and let it shape you into someone deeper, someone more grounded in truth. There's no shame in falling. The only shame is in never standing back up. And here's the thing, every failure you survive becomes part of your story. It becomes proof. Proof that you're still here. Proof that you didn't quit. Proof that no matter what tried to stop you, it didn't succeed. That kind of proof, it's priceless. It becomes part of your foundation. And over time, you realize that failure wasn't something to fear. It was something to thank. So instead of hiding from your failures, own them, study them, let them teach you. Ask yourself, what did this experience show me about myself? What strength did it reveal? What weakness did it expose that I now have the power to change? Because once you begin to see failure as feedback instead of final judgment, it becomes one of your greatest allies in growth. And if you failed recently, if you feel like you've lost something, missed a step, disappointed yourself, or others, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not less worthy because you failed. You are not broken. You are becoming. This is just a chapter, not the whole book. And what you do next matters far more than what went wrong. Will you rise? Will you try again? Will you use the lessons instead of avoiding them? The people who grow, the people who succeed, the people who become unshakable, they're not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who looked failure in the face and said, "You're not the end of me. You're the making of me." So let this be your moment, your turning point. Instead of avoiding failure, embrace it, learn from it, use it, and prove to yourself that nothing, not even the hardest fall, can keep you from rising. Fall in love with the process, not just the results. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes. We chase titles, trophies, numbers on a scale, followers on a screen, proof that we've made it. But the truth is, results are fleeting. They come and go. What stays with you is who you become in the process. What transforms you isn't the applause of the finish line, but the quiet discipline it took to keep going when no one was clapping. The process of everyday grind, that unseen effort, those early mornings and late nights, is where the magic really happens. It's where character is forged. It's where integrity is built. It's where you meet the real you, not the version you post online, but the one who gets up and shows up even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, and unrewarded. Let's be honest. Most days don't feel glamorous. There are days when progress is invisible, when you're putting in the work and nothing seems to change. Days when you're tired, uninspired, and questioning if any of it even matters. And yet, if you keep showing up, something beautiful starts to happen. Slowly, quietly, you begin to shift. You get stronger, more focused, more aligned. That's the process working on you, even when the results haven't shown up yet. Falling in love with the process means learning to find meaning in the small things, in the effort, in the repetition, in doing the right thing even when it doesn't bring instant gratification. Because real growth isn't loud, it's subtle. It's in the meal you prepared instead of ordering out, the chapter you read instead of scrolling endlessly, the workout you did even though you didn't feel like it. These small wins, stacked over time, build a life of strength and substance. It also means being patient with yourself. We're so quick to demand progress, to want change overnight. But deep, lasting change takes time. Trees don't grow in a day. Neither do you. And just because the fruit is invisible yet doesn't mean the roots aren't growing deep. Trust that. Trust the process, even when it feels slow. Especially when it feels slow. Because that's when it's teaching you the most about discipline, about humility, about how much you're really willing to grow. If you only love the results, you'll quit when the results don't come fast enough. But if you learn to love the process, nothing can stop you. Because then your motivation isn't tied to what you get, it's tied to who you're becoming. And when the journey itself becomes a reward, you'll find peace in the progress, even the invisible kind. So ask yourself, can you show up without applause? Can you keep going when the scale doesn't move, when the promotion doesn't come, when no one notices your effort? Because if you can, you're already winning. You're already becoming someone few people have the discipline to be. And the beautiful irony is that when you fall in love with the process, the results eventually come. Not because you chased them, but because you outworked every excuse. You outlasted every doubt. You stayed consistent long enough for growth to catch up with you. This is what it means to prove yourself to yourself, not in one grand moment, but in 1,000 quiet choices made in silence. It's in the way you keep your promises to yourself, the way you keep building, even when it's lonely, the way you keep believing, even when there's no evidence yet. So fall in love with the process. Love the grind more than the glory. Love the journey more than the destination. And trust that who you're becoming along the way is worth far more than anything you could ever achieve in a single moment. Because when you show up day after day, not for recognition, but for evolution, you don't just change your life. You change who you are. And that kind of transformation, that's unshakable. There's a version of you still living in the past. A version that was unsure, overlooked, betrayed, or broken. A version that doubted their worth because life hit hard and no one was there to say, "You're going to be okay." Maybe that version still lives in your memory. The child who felt invisible, the teen who felt like they never measured up, the adult who carried the weight of failure and shame. You've carried them with you through seasons of pretending, pushing, surviving. But now, it's time to stop running from that version of you. It's time to go back, not to stay there, but to reach for them and say, I've got you now. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting who you were. It means becoming who that version of you always needed. It means showing them that the pain wasn't the end of their story. It means proving that every wound, every scar, every tear had a purpose because it led you here, to this moment where you rise not just for yourself, but for those you once didn't know how. There's something sacred in turning your pain into purpose. When you choose to grow, to heal, to rise, you're not just doing it for the person you are today. You're doing it for the person you used to be, the one who cried in silence, the one who questioned their worth, the one who didn't have the words, the strength, the clarity. You are their redemption. You are the answer to their prayer. You are the proof that even in the deepest darkness, light was always waiting. So become their protector, their defender, their voice. Be the kind of person you needed when you were unsure and small and scared. Speak the truth they never heard. You are enough. You are not your mistakes. You are not the ones who left. You are not the pain they gave you. You are whole. You are becoming. And with every brave step you take today, you are rewriting their story not with regret, but with resurrection. This is your legacy, not the trophies, not the titles, not the applause. Your real legacy is the quiet revolution happening inside you. It's the strength you're building in silence. It's the compassion you show because you remember what it felt like to be unseen. It's the courage to break the cycle, to live fully, to rise not above others, but for others. Because the truth is, when you prove yourself to yourself, you don't just transform your present. You bring healing to your past, and you light the path for others who are still trying to believe in theirs. Your growth becomes a lighthouse. Your resilience becomes hope in human form. And suddenly, the journey becomes bigger than you. It becomes an offering to the world. So today, decide that you're no longer living just to impress the world. You're living to honor every version of yourself that fought to survive. Live in a way that makes your past self proud and your future self grateful. Be the evidence that healing is possible. That strength doesn't come from being untouched by life, but by being touched and choosing to rise anyway. This life isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than who you were yesterday. And not to prove anything to the world, but to show your own soul, I didn't give up. I didn't let pain define me. I came home to myself. I rose. I grew. I became. So let this be your declaration. I am not here to seek approval. I am here to evolve. I am not here to perform. I am here to heal. I am not here to chase validation. I am here to live with intention. I am not broken. I am becoming. And I will rise for every version of me that thought I couldn't.